Okay, so for another installment of Calica's Class podcast, today I have a special guest. It's my boy Chip, or Mr. Chad Kumagai. Okay, and the reason why I have Mr. Kumagai here is he is a lawyer. He's one of my lawyer friends. What is your official title, Chip?
Uh, my official title is Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, which is a fancy
That's
way of saying I'm a prosecutor.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought it was. I didn't want to get it wrong, but okay. So deputy prosecutor for the
It's
state
the
of
same
Hawaii.
thing as like people say district attorney, exact same thing. It's all different names for the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So basically, when people get in trouble, they see you in court, and you're the guy trying to put away the baddies, right?
Yep, that's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. So I just thought it'd be interesting to get your point of view on some of the things going around in Hawaii. Um, so obviously, the first you know, kind of topic would be this whole coronavirus situation, the whole COVID-19. And you're telling me the other day, right, that you're kind of talking to, I guess, the state about what to do with the prisoners. So if you want to talk a little bit about
Right.
that.
So so right now we're all ordered to stay at home. We're all ordered to do our social distancing and all that stuff. And I guess one of the thoughts is, what do people in jail do? Because you know, I guess they're kind of there by choice, but not really. And it's not like they can go and distance themselves from other people. So there is a concern that if it gets into the jail, the COVID-19 will spread like wildfire amongst all the
Yeah.
people that in close quarters. OCCC is already overpopulated, all of those things, and that's a real concern. That's something that we should be concerned about, if nothing else, because if there's a big outbreak in the jail, then a lot of those people are probably going to go to Queens. They're going to take bed space from people like you and me who might
Mhm.
need it.
Yeah.
And, this is all part of flattening the curve.
Yeah. And
But
it could
on the
also
other
pass
side,
on to, well, it could
go ahead.
also pass on to the what you call it, the prison guards and whatnot, and the people
Right,
that have to service them, right? I mean,
right. So my understanding of the whole thing, what's going on in jail, is that they've stopped visitations. They're taking a lot of proactive measures to prevent it from coming in. But of course, all of the staff, all of the corrections officers, they all have to go home at night, and they've got their own thing, and they're not. I'm sure they're not as monitored as the prisoners are. So I guess there is the concern that they could bring it in. But of course, on the other side of this, people are talking about releasing these people into the community without a place to shelter in place necessarily, without a place to self quarantine. A lot of the people who are in there because of inability to follow rules. So are they going to social distance? Are they going to stay at home?
it's a good point. Yeah.
And then of course there's the public safety aspect of it. If there's recidivism, do people reoffend? What do they do if they don't have jobs? Because I mean, a quarter of the state is unemployed right now, last I saw. So if they can't get a job, what are they going to do for money? What are they going to do for food?
Mm.
And sometimes, people caught up in that lifestyle could go back to their old ways. And so one of the big things that the judiciary and public safety, Department of Public Safety, is dealing with right now is they're trying to balance those two things, right? The potential spread of the outbreak in the jail versus public safety and public health, really. So,
Yeah. So I mean, that's a good point, right? Like if they're in prison for a crime, they get out of prison and they don't have a job lined up because there's no jobs, probably gonna go
right.
back to crime. I mean, there's a good chance, right? So like, I guess.
And we're talking about hundreds of people here. So
Mm,
it's not like, there's enough time to go case by case and figure out, like, can this guy go live with his auntie when he gets out? There's just no time for that, no resources.
yeah. So I guess since you guys are talking about it, like which types of prisoners are you guys looking at possibly releasing? I mean, obviously not the non-violent offenders, right? But
Right.
Is there
So,
certain
so,
credentials that they have to have?
so that's a great question. And let me make one thing clear. There is a distinction between prison and jail.
Mhm.
Jail is for short time offenders, people are convicted of misdemeanors, people are waiting for their trial. Prison is for people who have been convicted and they've been sentenced for a number of years.
Okay.
So in Hawaii, that's either 5, 10, 20, or life, most
Mhm.
likely. Nobody's talking about releasing prisoners.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So let's make that clear. What they are talking about potentially doing is releasing um, people in jail who
Okay.
are convicted of lesser offenses like theft and um,
Drug
burglary,
offenses, that type of
yeah,
thing.
drug offenses. But I think everyone seems to agree that we're going to exclude people who are violent, who are sex offenders, things like that. It's just everyone that doesn't fit into those broad categories that the discussion is really about.
I see. I see. Okay. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
So I guess there were two camps at least so far. One is a group of people who want to sort of just en masse release people in these categories, that I just described, nonviolent, low-level offenses, things like that.
yeah.
And there are other prosecutors and people in the public. I think Kurt Caldwell and Susan Ballard spoke on it last week. Um, and the prosecutors, of course, we want to have a say in each individual case. So in other words, we want like a case by case evaluation
Oh
of
wow.
the person's criminal history, what they're gonna do when they're out, what they're pending trial for, X, Y, and Z, as opposed to just broad categories.
Wow. Okay. And we all know, like, if that happens, I mean, it's going to take forever, right? I mean, we kind of know how the city and county moves. It's going to be a long process to go through each individual case, right?
Yeah, and things are a little. I mean, you know, like in other aspects of life, this whole coronavirus thing has just completely turned everything on its head.
Mhm.
So, as it stands right now, there are no trials going on. There are very limited court hearings. Um, I don't even know if the courthouse is open to the public
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, I was just going
So,
to ask you that, but yeah, there haven't been any trials, right, since what, like
right,
last month? Yeah.
yep. So that's one of the things that's making it harder too, right? I mean,
Mhm.
everything just kind of slowed down to a crawl.
So what happens? I mean, like, so let's say someone gets arrested for, let's say, a violent crime. Okay, let's say somebody was arrested 2 weeks ago. They're just
Sure.
being held in jail at this point, and they just have to wait for the trial hearing. I mean,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I mean,
post bail.
all of the people that had um, trials pending for this month, they've all been moved on. Uh, so they all need to wait longer. People can still bail out,
Mm.
depending on the level of offense.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's that. But a lot of the people that are in jail right now are in jail because they can't afford to bail out.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if they couldn't afford to bail out before, they probably will not be able to bail out now. So
yeah. So even somebody for a minor offense, they're just stuck in jail until this virus passes, basically, right?
um, I think that's the status quo, and that's generally what's happening. But everyone is taking at least incremental measures on trying to reduce the jail population. So
Hmm.
I know HPD is not arresting as many people as they could
Mm. I see.
if this were a regular situation. The prosecutors in the whole state are charging less,
Mm.
so that
Okay.
prevents people from getting detained and held until trial. So
Yeah,
we
so
can
just
we can
being more
actually one of
selective
the things
about it.
that we can do to reduce the prison population or the jail population is to delay charging.
Hmm.
So as long as we don't have a person in custody waiting for a charge, we don't need to charge them right away.
Oh, I
So
see, I
we
see.
can wait until the pandemic's over and then charge them, and then hopefully someone will serve a warrant on them, and then the process will start
And bring
that
them
way.
back in. Oh, I see. Interesting,
So,
interesting.
so there's a lot of different things that people on all sides are doing to try to reduce the population.
Hmm. So you brought up a point that I believe, yeah, the last statistic I saw was like over 200,000 people applied for unemployment in Hawaii,
Right.
right? And so with all these unemployed people, I know typically what follows is the crime goes up. I
Yep.
mean, in most states where there's a high unemployment rate, typically crime goes up as well, right? There is a correlation there.
A strong,
So
very strong correlation.
yeah. So I mean, what do you kind of anticipate as a prosecutor? I mean, are you guys, and how are you guys preparing for that, I guess?
Um, you know, one of the unique things about being a prosecutor, maybe not necessarily me, but the prosecutorial function, is that we can choose who we decide to charge, right? And what we're going to charge them. So, I can't speak for the office because I'm not speaking for the office, but there are things that can be done to kind of ease the workload. I'm not saying that any of those things will, or all of those things will be considered, but or done, but there are ways to sort of prepare for. But yeah, I mean, we just need to take it as it comes, and sadly, I think that's one of the things that is kind of tragic about the criminal justice system because not everybody who commits a crime is like a bad person or like have poor morals. Sometimes people just gotta eat, man, and
Yeah. People get desperate. Yeah, exactly.
and that's one of the things that happens when the economy goes bad, crime goes up, and it's not always like well, I'll put it this way: a lot of the crimes that are done in the state, in the country, in the world are really you can relate most of it to some sort of poverty or trauma. Domestic violence, sexual abuse, drug offenses, property crimes. They're all things that can trigger people to put them on the path to committing those
Hmm.
crimes. It's not like these things happen in a vacuum. So that's sort of the exacerbation that we're probably going to see when the crime
Hmm.
goes up, when the economy goes bad. All of those things
It's more
contribute.
like the crime is a symptom of something bigger, right? It's like the crime is because they can't eat or they can't afford to provide, right? So,
Right,
and
right.
that's why people go down that road, yeah. Yeah.
Or they get in a certain mindset that
Hmm.
leads them to do drugs or you know
Hmm.
uh, hit their wife or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah. So, well, um, since we're another current event that recently happened is my boy Bernie Sanders. You
Yes.
heard yesterday he dropped out, but
Hmm.
so I was really sad about that. But I think one of the things that maybe all of this brings up, the virus, and even Sanders was bringing up was the idea of wealth uh, inequality, right? The wealth gap, right? And I think right now, this is really kind of showing the difference between the middle class, the lower class, middle class, and the 1%, right? Is
In what way?
so for the middle class, right? I think a lot of people were pretty comfortable. I think America was pretty comfortable, right? If you were working at a hotel, right, 2 months ago, you were working at a hotel, you're doing okay, right? Depending on what kind of job you had, you didn't really worry about your job or nothing like that. And then within 2 months, now you're worrying about paying your mortgage, you're worrying about paying rent, right? And that was the typical middle class, I'd say, in Hawaii. Most people were somehow involved in the tourism industry or just the restaurant industry, something like that.
Well,
And
also
now,
probably in this really similar financial situation, even if you're not in those industries, right? I mean, so many people are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And now it's like, bam, this hits, and these people are seriously stressing out, and I don't blame them, right? Um, and then at the same time, we have a very small group of people at the top within this nation that are like, eh, right? Whereas like basically, where has all our money gone, right? Um, and it's kind of like, okay, we got like a guy like Jeff Bezos who has 120 billion dollars, right? Um, and yeah, he probably lost some money. Well, maybe not. He's Amazon, so he's probably banking right now, right?
Yeah,
But
I think he's okay.
yeah, he's okay. He's okay. But I brought it up with my students before, but it's just like, how have we allowed some of these CEOs to be that rich? And I've I've always wondered, like, even though it's probably not possible, but could we place a wealth cap on business people, businessmen, women in America? I mean, and just because with all that money at the top, it never gets dispersed to the rest of the people. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing right now. Yeah,
What do
is
you mean by wealth cap? What does that mean?
so basically we set up something where it's like, well, you can only make, I'll just put a number out there, you can only make $10 billion. That's the
And
max.
everything after that will be
It just has to be redispersed into your company, whether paying people's wages, whether it be research and development, but basically you're capped off at $10 billion.
are you asking my opinion on that?
Oh, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm just throwing the idea out there, but it's something that I've been thinking about more because right now, okay, this is what made me think about it, right? Is the stimulus checks coming out. Okay?
Okay.
So every American, if you did your taxes in 2018 or 2019, you're getting, I think it's $1,200, $1,200 check.
Right,
I
right.
think so, right? Yeah. So for me, like, I'm doing okay. 1,200 bucks. Hey, that's great. Yay. I'm happy. But
Yep.
then for somebody struggling, one $1,200 check,
Nothing. That's nothing.
they ain't gonna pay your rent.
Especially here, yeah, that's not even gonna buy you a month.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, is that all we can do? And I think Bernie Sanders brought up something like um, universal basic income. So like during this coronavirus situation, every person affected by the virus, every person that was laid off, he was like, why don't you cut them a $2,000 check per month, right? And that was the idea he threw out there. And of course, everybody was like, where's that money going to come from, right? And so that's what got me thinking is, well, you know, there's a lot of money here. It's just the money's being kind of hoarded. The money's being hoarded at the top. And I guess that's just where I'm kind of going with it is like, if that money is just being hoarded at the top 1%, it's never going to get dispersed to the rest of the people that need it, you know?
I mean, I just don't think that the answer is to give people a lump sum of, even if it is a recurring payment. I just think that people who aren't financially literate, and I'm not saying that
No, yeah, yeah,
that's the reason why they're in financial straits. I'm not saying that at all.
yeah,
But
yeah,
some people are really financially illiterate, and
yeah,
they're just not gonna save that money or spend it wisely.
yeah, yeah,
And so I just don't think it's gonna solve the problem. On the other end, you know, I hear what you're saying about the billionaires, the 1%. I get that. But at the same time, I also think there needs to be some sort of incentive to, create, excel. be the best. And there's a reason why a lot of companies that have worldwide influences are based in America, like Apple, Google, Amazon. There's a reason why it happened in America because the systems in America allow someone with that ambition and talent to create these services and companies that
Mhm.
are the best in the world. And I think if you start capping people's income, I wouldn't say they lose the incentive to do what they're doing, but it sort of changes the calculus on it. And I think it's good. I wish that there was a chicken in every pot and everyone had an easy time paying their rent. But I think one of the things that we benefit from in this system is that we have all of these things that are created by people who have this incentive to really push the envelope in their industry. So I guess we're sort of saying the same thing, and I think our minds are in the same place, but it's just a matter of how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I see where you're coming from too. Yeah, like if a guy like Elon Musk, if he's not able to make the money, he has no incentive to create, SpaceX, these shuttles that land themselves and these, sub 2 second cars, right? There's no incentive to do it because if you're not gonna make that profit off of it, right? Yeah.
And Elon Musk, that's a great example, right? Because he started off doing PayPal, but he's from South America, South
Yeah.
Africa,
Africa, yeah.
right? So like, why is he here? I mean, he's not here for the weather.
Yeah,
He's here because he
exactly.
can he can conduct his business in the most profitable way. That's
Yeah,
why he came
yeah.
here. That's why he started his company here. That's why he has all his companies, at least for the most part, based in America.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He
that's a good
started off all the
example.
companies in America. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I guess like what's your take on what we should do or like how we can prevent I guess the tsunami that's coming of people that are going to be in trouble in the next month, like as far as paying their
Ooh,
rent. Any ideas?
I mean, yeah, this might be a controversial opinion, but I actually think the federal government's doing a pretty good job, as much as they can do. The Fed,
Yeah.
the Fed is really going all out to protect us. And by the Fed, I
As far
mean
as the loans.
federal monetary policy, not necessarily the federal government as a whole. But if we're talking economics, I think the Fed is going to do a lot to help us.
So you're talking about the loans and whatnot, the
Right, right.
yeah.
Because the way that the economy is looking right now, at least until the whole outbreak started, unemployment was record low, inflation was reasonable at about 2%. So they have a lot of room and a lot of tools to really flood the market with capital. And so I hope that they do that. I guess the hope is that the economy will sort of rebound like a V they're talking about.
Mhm.
And maybe that's one way they do it. The Fed sort of intervenes in a really heavy-handed way that can
Yeah.
kind of help us.
But I didn't
Because
realize this.
they don't have
Correct me if
massive
I'm wrong, but
inflation.
I found out that the loans that they're giving these small businesses, something like if they keep 70% of their workforce, they don't have to pay it back or something. Is it something like that? Hey, what's up, Cody? Just noticed you're online. Sorry, one of my students is in this meeting too. He jumped in. Hello, Cody. We're just talking about the virus, so if you want to chime in or just listen, that's cool. This is my friend Chad. He's the
How's it going,
deputy
Cody?
prosecutor for the state of Hawaii.
Okay.
So don't mess around, otherwise he'll put you in prison,
Nah, nah,
put you in
nah.
jail. Nah, nah. But yeah. But sorry, wait. What was it talking about now? Oh yeah, so the loans, yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
loans.
but yeah, I think if that was the policy, like if you take out a loan, use it to pay your employees' wages, you keep 70% of them after this virus passes over, then it's like forgiveness, right? Like I think the loan's forgiven or something. not
That's,
mistaken.
I mean, I don't doubt that that's an actual policy, but that's a kind of crazy policy, man.
Yeah.
Not the fact that they don't have to pay it back. The fact that they can fire 30% of their people.
Mm, I see.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
can you imagine if 30% of all working adults got laid off? Like the economy would be even worse than it is now.
yeah, yeah.
Because government isn't laying off people for the most part right
Mm,
now. But
mm,
imagine if they did. Like it would be
yeah,
insane.
yeah. Be in trouble. Be in trouble. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's it's craziness though. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, I guess nobody has the answers, right? I mean, like it's just all brainstorming at this point.
Well, I think the craziest thing is gonna be just as a society, what happens when this is all over? Because we're not gonna wake up on May 1st and someone's gonna say, "All right, everything's back to normal. Everybody go
Yeah,
back to your jobs and stuff."
yeah, yeah,
I mean, how long are we gonna be social distancing? How long are we gonna be weary about shaking someone's hand? I mean, is it? It could be for the rest of our lives, for all we know.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's really changed everything. One of the um one of the most heartbreaking things about this whole situation was that I took Connor, so I took my son Connor to the park for students that don't know. I just took him walking around, and then we went by a park, and the park, I thought it was going to be open because there's no like gates or nothing.
Mhm.
But this park, it has a fence, and they use yellow tape to tape up where the opening is, right? And then so I was like, oh, Connor is closed. And he's like, I want to go park. I want to go park. And I
Oh,
was like, oh, sorry, dude. Like, it's closed. Like, we can't go. And he's like, I want to go in. I want to go in. I want to see friends. And that's when
oh,
it kind of hit me. I was like, holy shit. Like, sorry, the language, guys. But holy crap. Like, yeah, it hit me that he can't play with kids for like, I don't know how long, you know?
who knows,
I,
right?
I have no idea. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. Like, he can't go to this park. Even if he could, like, I wouldn't be able to let him play with kids, like, because they're just
Yeah,
passing this thing around. I'm like, oh my God, this is really kind of insane. This was maybe like 3 weeks ago that happened. I was just like, wow, this is really kind of dark, like in a way, like.
yeah.
And so I literally had to carry him home because he kept wanting to go in. I was just like, man, this really
Oh
sucks.
man. And I think the same thing. Like, when am I gonna be able to go have dinner with my parents? My dad's birthday was on Tuesday, but
Oh
like,
man.
what can you do? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't. It's not. I'm not so scared that I would get it because
Mhm.
I'll either
Exactly.
recover or I won't. But like, I wouldn't want to give it to someone else. That
Exactly.
is that gets me the most.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
So
like the parents, right? The grandparents.
nobody alive today has ever experienced anything like this.
Mm. Yeah,
And that is the craziest part. Like, how is this gonna affect the psyche of everybody living right now? We're all gonna
yeah,
remember that 1 month and a half into 2020 where we all stayed home and we didn't do anything,
yeah.
and then society somehow pieces itself back together, or maybe it
Mm.
doesn't. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is in the history books already. Like
Yeah,
it's never happened. Yeah.
and it's funny to me because like there are, I'm sure everybody's seen in the news. Like there's so many people who are not taking this seriously, and I
Mm-mm.
just keep wondering like what is what do you think is the impetus behind that? Like why are some people sheltering in place, hoarding toilet paper, and some people are partying at the beach?
Mm. I mean, I just think some people don't think big picture. They like, oh well, you know, young people aren't dying from this, or like, oh, I got past the flu before, like I got a good immune system, right? But they don't think like how it can affect the others, how they could be the ones spreading it, right? I think it just comes down to. I actually had a podcast with a couple of teachers yesterday, a couple of my teacher friends, and we talked about this. But the Asian countries, they seem to have figured it out. Okay, even if you exclude China, okay, because China, I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know if those numbers are correct, but
Yeah,
we
I
can.
don't believe them, man. I don't believe them.
I don't know if I believe China, but South Korea, right? Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, right?
Yep.
Their numbers, it seems like they got this under control, and I really think it attributes to like their idea of a community, right? So like
Yep.
in Asian countries, they believe in like shame, bringing shame upon their family and themselves, and not affecting others, right? Like not bringing, uh, they don't want to affect others in a bad way, right?
And that's funny. That's actually an intersection of like what you just talked about and what I do. Because in at least Japan and South Korea, in the criminal justice system, if you get in trouble for something, there is so much shame. And the first thing you gotta do is apologize. The second thing you gotta do is apologize again.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it reflects on your family, your community, X, Y, and Z. And for some reason, I mean, maybe that sort of mindset is not prevalent in other places. I don't know. Do you remember
well,
that South Korean lady that got in trouble about the macadamia nuts, like
I
on the
don't remember
plane?
that.
She wanted macadamia nuts out of the package or in the package or something, and then she got all like rude and assaultive to the flight attendant or something. She was some kind of
I don't
like
remember that.
Korean Air heiress or like the daughter of the founder or
Oh,
something.
okay.
And when she got charged, she showed like so much shame. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that's helping the Asian countries right now.
Mm,
Like they have a sense of community and doing things for like more than just themselves, I guess.
yeah.
And not to say that that doesn't exist in other places, but it's really prevalent there.
But think about the American philosophy, right? The American philosophy is my individual rights. I have rights. You're impeding upon my rights. Don't tread on me, right?
Yep.
It's this idea that's like the American value is like I have freedom. It's my freedom, right?
Yep.
And I think that maybe that's something that has to change, right? Is okay, you got freedom, but your freedom also has to not affect the people around you, and you got to think about the people around you as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because you know well, I'll say this. I'm trying to give a unique perspective as like a prosecutor in the criminal justice system because
Mhm.
that's probably what I can contribute most to your students. And what you just said, personal rights versus the general community as a whole, that is the fundamental conflict that underlies the criminal justice system, right?
Mm.
Because we all need to be able to walk down the street and be safe in our homes, all the things that we just kind of expect that we can live our own lives how we choose to live it. But on the other hand, I mean, there is something really important to be said about personal rights,
Mhm.
individual rights. And that's sort of, I guess, that whole mindset underlies the people of the country and that's embodied in the laws that we have. So, I mean, I wonder if that's something that could change to be something closer to Japan, Korea, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't, it just seems so deeply ingrained in everything that we do in America. So,
Mm. But you can kind of see because I mean here in Hawaii, right? We're very connected to the Asian kind of philosophy, right? And if you look at our numbers actually have been pretty linear, if not kind of going down. And I
past
know we're
couple of
not
days,
testing a lot, but as far as deaths go, yeah, our death count is real low. And I'm wondering if it's just because we're actually thinking about each other, right? We're actually like doing what the Asian countries are doing and staying away from each other, being considerate, I know I noticed a lot more people wearing face masks around now, but I'm wondering if maybe that's just another thing, you know?
I mean, I don't know if it's, if we're talking about the state, I don't know if it's so much the Asian community. I think it's just the community of all of the people in the state. And I mean, we're all in it together. We're all on an island.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not like some jerk from New Jersey can go drive over to New York and spread the virus.
yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point because we're so
And
isolated too. Yeah,
well, and the way the culture is, everybody's auntie or uncle, and
yeah, yeah.
everybody knows
It's kind of
somebody
local
that they went
style.
to high school with. That's the sort of thing. We're all in it together, and that's one
Yeah,
of the great things about local culture, I think.
yeah, yeah. I actually have another little theory,
Okay.
kind of a crazy theory. Okay, I actually brought it up on Reddit. Tell me what you think about this. Okay, so if you notice, again, Asian countries kind of got it under control. A lot of Western countries, Italy, Spain, America, we're still, I mean, it's getting a little better, but still, I mean, we definitely spiked at certain points, right? But what's the main difference between Asian countries and Western countries? Very small difference that people do here in Hawaii as well. Hawaii is one of the few states that I know everybody
What? Take your
follows
shoes off?
this rule. Taking your shoes off. What if that's one reason why it's spreading so like rampantly around Western countries? Is you think about it, right? People are always spitting on the street, and then you're walking on that, and we know that this virus can survive in surfaces, right? They walk into your house, they drop the keys on the ground, pick it up, touch their nose, and bam, right? It's a theory that popped in my head, like it was a shower thought. Like literally, I was taking a shower, I was like, I wonder if it's the shoes. And then I was
Wait,
like,
did you post this
oh,
on our shower thoughts?
I did. No, I put it on the world news actually, because somebody posted like, because right before I took a shower that night, um, somebody posted a question like, why is it so bad in Western countries and not in Asian countries? And then I was thinking about, it, I was like, shoes. Nobody wears shoes in the house. And I was like, and then at the time, like the Hawaii numbers are super low, and I was like, maybe that's why Hawaii numbers are so low. I don't know. So it just something I thought about. I was like, oh, I wonder if it could
I
be that.
wonder. I
But it's
wonder.
something like, you know, like it's nothing that we got to worry about because we do it already, right? But it's something that, I mean, honestly, like I don't know how people can walk inside their house with shoes on, right?
Yeah,
It blows
man.
my mind.
Thank you. Like
It's
that trips
filthy.
me out every time I see somebody. Like, I
It's
got carpet.
filthy.
I got carpet in my house, and if somebody walked into my house with shoes on,
Yeah.
I would be so
It's ass
mad.
whooping. That's
Yeah.
ass whooping right there. Yeah.
Why don't people have carpet on the mainland?
I
And we're
don't understand it.
doing it, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like maybe that's something they should start considering on the mainland and in Italy and
That
whatnot. It's like,
helps.
hey, maybe take your shoes off before you go in the house, man. Damn.
Yeah. I don't. I just don't get it, man.
Yeah.
But maybe that's one of the reasons. I'm sure it's like so many different
Different
factors.
factors, right? Yeah. Like I'd be wiping down my mail with bleach, like a bleach solution. Like I'm wiping down boxes with like, uh, oh, I'm paranoid, man. I'm super
Wiping down
paranoid.
my credit card after I use it at the grocery
Yeah,
store and stuff,
yeah,
all
yeah.
kinds of stuff. And but
You wearing face mask? You got face mask?
yeah, I got face masks. But who knows how effective like the wipes are on your credit card or your phone and stuff. It's just,
I don't know. There's
I,
just some kind of sense of control, right?
yeah, better than nothing, I guess.
Better
But
than nothing. Exactly. Exactly.
but like when you asked me to come on this, I was thinking one of the craziest things in my mind is that for a lot of people, like your students, like this is the first like, existential crisis
Mhm.
that they faced in their lifetime, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because
Yeah.
I'm assuming none of your students were alive during 9/11. If they,
Yeah, pretty much all of them now were born after, I think. I think the seniors
and
were
even if
born
they were born
102.
right before it, I mean, they're not going to remember it.
Yeah, they're not gonna remember it exactly. This is bigger than 9/11 though. I mean, I was alive for 9/11. That was nothing compared to this, you know? Like,
But then you think about like, what we were talking about earlier, like how this is gonna change society forever.
mhm. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
9/11, we got the Patriot Act, which is still going on, 19
Mhm,
years
mhm.
later. We'll never be able to wait for someone at the gate at the airport
Yeah.
ever again.
TSA. Yep. Yep.
Like all of these things, that-
Yeah.
just from that one event, people like you and me who lived through that, we saw how the world changed. And I
Mhm.
think for your students, it's going to be really interesting to see how their world changes from, what it was just 2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world is going to be fundamentally different, and it's going to be so interesting to see, what happens. Are we ever going to have sports again? I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
they're going
what's
to have
happening
fight
with the
night
NFL?
forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why, like, I've been putting up these podcasts. I've been talking about it because I, I think the students are interested in it. Cody's still there. I don't know if you can chime in, but yeah, I think students are interested in what's going to happen because, like you said, it is kind of an existential crisis. And like, what do we do? And the thing is, none of us know, right? Like,
And I think
the
that's
answer's out there.
maybe one of the reasons why we saw, like, I'm sure you've seen that video of the spring breakers who are like, "Ah, if I get the Rona, I get the Rona, man. I
Yeah,
can't stay
yeah, yeah.
inside." Like a lot of young people, I think, feel like they're invincible. Like we did, when
Yeah,
we were younger,
exactly.
you and
Yeah.
me, like we thought like that. And so, man, they're gonna be in for a big shock when the world changes.
Hmm, hmm.
And I think that that's probably one of the reasons why, at least for younger people, they're not, at least in the beginning of the whole epidemic, that they weren't following the guidelines as much as they should. Now, these
But
older
granted, too.
people who are still going on cruises, I don't know what their
Yeah.
problem is, but
Yeah.
you know,
It's like the people that should be following social distancing the most are the ones that, like, my my dad. Luckily, I was a little worried about my dad. My dad, he's a big Trump fan, and so I was worried that he wasn't going to take this seriously.
really,
Yeah, he's a big Trump fan, but so I was like, oh man, I might have to convince my dad to take this seriously. My dad's like hardcore, man. Like he wears a face mask when he goes on walks. He like always is washing his hands, disinfecting. I'm like, oh, okay, okay.
good for
But
him.
he said because they live in a retirement community, yeah, up in Malca. But he said he's the only one wearing the face mask. He sees like people like just sitting around drinking coffee together. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's telling people like, "Don't, you can't do that." And then they're like, "Oh no, it's all right. If I die, I die." Like that kind of attitude. I'm like, no, these are all the old people that they should be listening. Like, but
I totally get the "if I die, I die" thing. I totally get it.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's like
if you just
still
meet a guy that's asymptomatic, which means you probably won't die from the virus, and then you spread it into the retirement community,
exactly right.
how could you
You're gonna
live
be
with
that
someone
guy. Yeah. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy on the cruise ship that gets the whole cruise ship quarantined for a month,
like
right?
that,
Like,
man? And like
man.
to have to live with the thought that you contributed to killing someone
Yeah,
or like someone dying, like
it's pretty nuts.
man, I don't know how people could carry that around.
Yeah,
That's rough.
seriously. But I don't know. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, yeah. So what's going on in the schools, man? Like I saw
The
something
schools.
I saw something yesterday that like they're not going to start up school until the state has 4 weeks of no new.
Yeah. So as far as I know, that's a policy as of right now. Um, there has to be 4 weeks with no new cases,
In
which
the
is like
state.
in the state. Yeah, in the state.
Bro, you might not have school next year.
That's what I'm thinking, man. Like I'm like, are you serious? Now, granted, yesterday we only had 7 cases, 7 new cases, but that was one
Which
day.
is incredible.
Yeah, and then today when I checked, we had 22. So I'm like, okay, well,
Oh,
yeah. So
yeah. 'Cause doesn't it seem like the
good
past couple of
policy.
days the numbers have been going down? The numbers of new cases?
Yeah, yeah. The numbers have been going down, and I think it's partly due they're just testing symptomatic people, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think a lot of people maybe are just trying to ride it out at home, so they're not getting tested. You're just like, yeah, which actually, in a way might be better because if they don't have it and they go to a hospital, they might get it, right? So it's like, unless you're
Right.
having really bad symptoms, maybe you should stay home, like, but,
And that would kind of be ideal, to if you have it to get it out of your system and start contributing to the herd immunity because that's how this is all gonna end, right?
yeah,
We all get
well,
herd
hopefully,
immunity, and then
yeah, yeah, that's what
hopefully
they're
the
saying.
thing doesn't mutate and start all over again. But
Oh God, I hope not. I hope not.
I mean,
Or,
but uh, one more random thought on this whole situation, man. Like, I think this just goes to show humans are not supposed to be living like this, man. You're not supposed to be like, you know, 500 people in a square block and
Mm,
like all living on top of each other, 10 people in
yeah,
an
yeah.
apartment in a house. Like that's
There was actually
if it weren't for that, the virus wouldn't spread.
yeah, yeah. So there was actually a podcast I listened to, Freakonomics, the Freakonomics podcast. It was about cities, and is this the end of cities, right? And basically, that's what they talked about is the concentration of people in some of these areas. It's just asking for this to happen again. When you're,
It's no coincidence that one of the worst outbreaks is in New York.
it is the worst outbreak, right? I mean, New York has more confirmed cases than any country.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, they have more confirmed cases than I think China and Italy,
Oh,
something like that. Craziness. And goes to show you, right? New York, I mean, is so populated. I mean, yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. It just goes to show, right? Maybe we do need to social distance a little more as far as we build these cities and towns.
I tell you what, if I could work from home for the rest of my career, that'd be great. I would actually like that, man.
Honestly, I miss my students. I miss that interaction. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Pretty
yes,
nice.
it's not for everybody, of course, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's for me because a lot of my work, a large portion of my work nowadays is doing appeals. So I'm just writing briefs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do
Yeah,
that for
so
many.
for you, yeah, I mean, at home, right? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's been pretty cruise being at home, but at the same time, it's like kind of lost my purpose, Like I don't feel like I
Yeah,
got
you
purpose
miss
right
me, that's why.
now. What is that, Cody?
You miss me, that's why. Yeah.
A little bit, Cody. A little bit, you zoomer. But yeah,
What, you starting to get stir crazy or what?
yeah. I mean, let's just say the kids keep me, or Connor and Madeline keep me busy, but at the same time, it's like, I would like to go out, just go to the store. I miss Costco, man. I'm just going to
Dude,
Costco.
I was telling Chelsea the other day, my girlfriend, like that I I just want to like eat a bowl of pho in a restaurant. Or like
There we go. Seriously,
just like
right?
the smallest things.
Yeah.
So we're trying to like keep our sanity by like just buying like ice cream and treats and so like
Hmm.
I got into sparkling water, turned
Oh,
it
nice. Yeah, I
to
saw that. I was like, is that Coke? Oh, it's bubbly.
yeah. So I mean I'm trying to do these things to like
Make
give
it
me a little
seem
bit
normal. Get some
something
normalcy to it.
or to make up for the lack of like other
Hmm.
things that we do in a normal society. But
Yeah, yeah.
man, that's one of the things that is starting to get to me that we just don't have those small things that we used to.
But I think at the same time, once we get this all figured out, which we will, right? Eventually, we're gonna figure this thing out.
Yep.
Is it's gonna make us appreciate, the interaction. I think it's gonna make us appreciate seeing our friends, going out to restaurants. Just the small things, like you said, just those little things. I think it's gonna be like, I think it's again, it's almost like a reset, right? Where we got so accustomed to just social media and doing things, playing video games that we're getting so sick of it now that maybe it's like a reset that we'll go back to like, hey, let's hang out, and put away our
I
phones
never,
and
that's a really good insight. I never thought about that. The way the pendulum is swinging the other way from where we were, where we could hang out, but we never wanted to. I mean, not specifically you and I, but like people in
yeah,
general.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And another weird kind of ironic thing is, what was the big story before this whole virus hit? What was the big headline every
impeachment?
week almost? Oh, besides impeachment, worldwide climate change, right?
Oh, sure, yeah,
Climate change. And what they're actually showing, right? Like, have you seen pictures of LA?
yeah.
Dude, it's like
Like,
clear. And they're saying that like around China and stuff, because everything got shut down, like it's like 20% cleaner there. So I'm like, holy crap, maybe is this Mother Nature like trying to say like, hey, get the shit out, like, you know?
dude, that's what I'm saying. I think it's like humans have evolved too good, man. Like we kind of started to mess things up, and we're starting to realize that like can't be living like this maybe. Or at least we weren't meant to live like this,
Yeah, yeah.
biologically, physiologically.
So maybe we gotta take a step back and just be like, okay, what really matters? Really matter, what's the priority here, right? And just kind of make the changes from there.
But one thing that's disappointing, on the global front is like it doesn't seem like we are as united as a world as we could have been. It seems
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
one of the things that we sort of didn't take advantage of this whole thing, because like you remember 9/11, like everybody's like, yeah, let's go to Afghanistan. Like Canada was sending troops, like
Yeah,
everywhere. Argentina was sending troops, like everybody's contributing. Here it's just like, you know, China has ventilators and they won't give it to us or whatever. And it's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
even within our country, like the states and the federal government,
Yeah, yeah.
that's one
They're
of the
they're
sad things.
literally outbidding each other for PPE and ventilators, right? Like the states are
Yeah,
bidding against each other. It's like, dude, you're the same country, man. Like,
yeah,
share. Like,
man.
it's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know.
So this was an opportunity, man, for us to really come together. I know there's a guy from China, right? He was like a billionaire from China who was just sending people like I think he sent like 20,000 or 50,000 masks or something to like Italy and stuff and like all these ventilators and stuff. But it's like I don't know.
I
That was the guy from China,
imagine
right?
if like this could have had started the sentiment where countries start working together, man, and who knows, maybe that sort of sentiment would carry on to climate change or
Mhm. Yeah,
plastics or anything else that the world needs to tackle collectively. But
yeah. I think that's one of the big evils is nationalism, right? Like this idea that our country's better than your country. It's like we're living on the same damn planet, man. Like who really gives a damn? Why is it a dick measuring contest? Like it doesn't have to be like why don't we just all work together just so everybody can get their piece of the pie? It's like
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I
But,
mean, that's one of the sad things. I mean, it might be the downfall of all of us. Maybe
mm,
not in our lifetime, but sometime soon.
yeah. Oh shoot, I forgot that we're recording this for students. But I might have to edit out that part. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just hope
You heard it live,
you
man.
didn't hear that, right, Cody? You didn't hear anything I said just now.
Fear nothing. Plead the fifth.
But yeah, overall, I think we still have a chance to maybe use this as an opportunity as an opportunity
So
to come together,
you know,
different countries.
what I've been starting to worry about, and this is like kind of semi tinfoil hat, but not really. Like, and I think after, if we ever get a hold of climate change, like if we lock that down, and that's good, the plastics are gonna just be the next big thing, and I think it's gonna be bigger, man. That's gonna
Talking about like the pollution in the ocean and all that.
not only that, but like there's like microbes and
Yeah,
microorganisms that are starting to
microplastics.
digest the plastics.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution is sort of helping to solve this problem, but what happens when those microbes and things are like in
Mm.
every,
Yeah, yeah,
like, how would we even try to like isolate and take that stuff out of whatever it's in, man? Because it's
yeah,
gonna be in
yeah,
every.
yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
gonna be.
well, I think because of this whole virus, I guess being optimistic here, I'm hoping that one of the big takeaways from this whole virus situation is that we're going to be pouring a lot more money into science, be pouring a lot more money into just you know, the medical field, hopefully, and sciences, because that, as we're seeing right now, that would have helped us a little. That probably would have helped us out a little, right?
And I think more than that, I wonder how this is going to change people's attitudes towards science.
Hmm.
I mean, what happens a year from now when we have a vaccine and there's a bunch of anti-vaxxers? Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure after this, I'm hoping the anti-vaxxers are kind of shut up, right? I mean,
Oh
like,
man, come
I
on. Those
would hope
people,
so. Yeah,
those
I know.
people are lost. I just hope that the best hope that we have is that they don't pass it on to their kids.
Yeah, yeah. But they literally are passing it on to their kids, right? Because they're not vaccinating them. So it's like, oh crap. But
I don't know, man. But yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hope that people will start to take science a lot more seriously.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because before this, a lot of those fields were getting defunded, right? They were losing a lot of funding, and I think after this, I mean, they kind of have a reason to get some money, you know?
I mean, I think
So
we need a pandemic response team in the administration.
yeah, that would have been helpful. I mean, we had one, but
Had one,
someone
you know.
disbanded. Not gonna say who. Cody, you can probably guess who. Cody. Um, but yeah.
What
Um,
happened?
I don't know. Our good old President Trump disbanded the pandemic response team, and I think it was 2018, 2019,
It
something
was
like that.
super recently,
Yeah, it was super recent.
right before the
Ridiculous.
pandemic.
Yeah, like right before.
Yeah, the
But
worst possible, literally the worst possible time to do
yeah,
it. Yeah,
but
but you know
overall,
what though? Nothing ever changes, and like, there's nothing that Trump or anyone could do to completely destroy the systems that we have in place. So, everything that happens in the grand scheme of things is so incremental, including like the pandemic response team, because we're gonna have one the next when the next president comes in. You know,
yeah, yeah.
changes forever. So,
I guess that's the main takeaway is like you just gotta be like flexible, like right. I mean, who would have guessed last year, right? This would happen. I mean, not in my wildest imagination would have
yeah, I
could
mean,
have. I mean, right? That we'd be stuck in our house for months, having to talk to each other over friggin' WebEx, right? I can't even see my students, can't go into work. Like,
dude, but can you imagine if we
just
were living
insane.
like 50 years ago? What would we do? Just read books all
Well,
day?
could you imagine if this was back in 9/11, like 20 years ago? This would have
Oh yeah,
sucked.
We'd all be on dial-up, man. We wouldn't be able to have this
I've been
conversation
playing
right
Snake on my Nokia. You know, just
now.
like Tetris and Snake on my Nokia. Like that's all you had. Like what the hell would we be doing? I have
Man,
no
yeah,
idea.
you can't go
It would have
outside.
been rough. And everybody would have lost their job because there was no remote workplaces, you know?
Right?
It'd be like, oh, we can't come to work. Well, you fired. You know, like,
I know, man.
so I
Crazy.
guess out of all the times it could have been, this is probably the best time for it to
Oh,
happen.
I'm sure the future will be even better.
Yeah,
Next
true,
time.
true.
But for now,
Which,
it's pretty good, all things considered.
yeah, no. But anyway, okay, it's been about an hour. I think that's probably my student's attention span, about an hour or so. Um, but yeah, so go ahead and end the recording. So any last words, Mr. Kumagai, for students?
No, thanks for having me on. Everybody study hard, work hard. And I will say this one thing, like to your students, like both you and I were just like them, not too long ago. And a lot of people think that being an attorney for me like means something, and it does. But you know, I was in the same place. I went public school my whole life, and anybody can do it, man. You just gotta keep grinding, and good things will happen.
What would you say is the secret to your success? I mean, you're an attorney, you're successful. So it's like,
You know what I think it is, man? My parents never told me I couldn't do it. Simple as
I
that.
like that. Yeah.
Like I would just not accept that people would tell me I can't do it. That's all it is. And you know what? You figure out what you gotta do, and you just do it, and don't let anybody like bring you down, man. Just keep grinding every day.
Yeah.
That's all
Just
it
work
is.
hard, right?
There's no magic ingredient or nothing, and like even if you aren't born or were raised in the best of situations, doesn't mean you can't make it, man. You just keep going. That's all it is. There's nothing magical about it. So,
I like that advice. Yeah. So just work hard, play hard.
that's right.
What's my students? Yeah. But okay. So I'll go ahead and end this podcast. Thanks for being on here,
Okay, Boomer.
Mr. Kumagai. Cody, you got any last questions for me?
Okay, no, Boomer.
Okay. All right, man. You take care.
Okay, man.
Okay, I'm gonna end them right now.